A top story this morning, waters of the Clark Fork River continue to flood their banks today. Meteorologist Luke Robinson with the National Weather Service said even though levels have receded slightly, more water is coming.
Luckily, here around the Missoula area, along the Clark Fork, the river levels are starting to lower a little bit. However, we are remaining in flood stage, so we'll continue to see low-lying areas along the Clark Fork west of Missoula continue to flood. And then with some light rain that we're expecting over the weekend and continued warm temperatures, we are expecting those rivers to rise back to where they were a couple days ago.
Robinson said other western Montana rivers are now also approaching flood stage.
Elsewhere, we continue to see some rivers running high, but they're not flooding currently, except for up around the Cedar Lake area where we're seeing continued flooding impacts up there. Bitterroot is below flood stage currently. We are forecasting for it to increase next week. It looks like we could be getting towards action stage by the start of next week.
As of 3 a.m., the Clark Fork west of Missoula was at 10.3 feet. Flood stage, of course, is 10 feet. In a related story, with floodwaters inundating several homes in the Missoula area, Missoula County Disaster and Emergency Services announced yesterday Christ the King Church has been opened as a temporary evacuation shelter for those families displaced by flooding. Deputy Director for the Office of Emergency Management, Ken Parks, has details.
We are right now organizing our volunteers and the communities that are active in disaster. We've been talking with the Red Cross, Jacqueline Baldwin LeClaire, and she has indicated that she will be opening up a shelter at Christ the King Church at 1400 Gerald Avenue.
Parks had several pieces of advice for neighborhoods affected by the flooding.
Floodwaters can be very dangerous. I want to stress that they can change, and they can appear on the surface to be calm or to have been, if you went through them yesterday, they can change overnight, and large amounts of earth can move underneath those floodwaters to where you may not be able to see a deep hole or possibly stronger currents that exist in those floodwaters.
Find a flood fact sheet issued by Missoula County on our website at newstalkkgvo.com. 2 Butte residents involved in a 2017 shooting death in Helena have been sentenced to prison for federal drug and weapons offenses. The Independent Record reports 42-year-old Brandon LeClaire was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute methamphetamine and felon in possession of a firearm, while 30-year-old Travis Holly Stevens received 9 years for the same meth charge and possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime. LeClaire was originally charged with deliberate homicide in the shooting death of 31-year-old Kenneth Lee Purcell at a Motel 6. County Attorney Leo Gallagher in Lewis and Clark County said he dropped that charge in favor of the federal charges, saying more serious charges are hard to prove and federal prosecutors had a stronger case. 2 men are facing multiple felonies after a Missoula resident reported a suspicious aroma on Monday afternoon, wafting out of a business in the Franklin to Fort neighborhood, not far from Sovereign Hope Church. Police spokesman Travis Welsh explains.
Just about 7:30, officers responded to the complaint of a suspicious odor coming from a business in the 1800 block of North Avenue West. When they arrived, they were able to distinctly smell the odor of what they described as marijuana, and immediately noted an exhaust fan over the door that was blowing out this odor.
The Marijuana Drug Task Force obtained a search warrant and found numerous marijuana plants growing in the building, as well as paraphernalia used in the manufacture and cultivation of marijuana. Welsh said police spoke directly with the man who came to the door.
That male was unable to produce any documentation or credible evidence that he was acting as a marijuana provider for medical marijuana patients. They learned that there was another male inside, and he was asked to come out, which he did. So 2 adult males were taken into custody, Craig Coolidge, who's 42 years of age, and a Daniel Hinchberger, 32 years old.
The 2 men each face the same 2 felony charges: criminal production or manufacture of dangerous drugs and criminal possession with intent to distribute. The White House is taking President Trump's beef against Senator John Tester to Montana's airwaves. White House Legislative Affairs Director Mark Short called into the radio program Montana Talks on Tuesday with Aaron Flint, that's of course on our Town Square station in Billings, to criticize Montana's senior senator for voting against Trump's Supreme Court and cabinet picks. Short also says Trump may take the feud to the Democrats' home turf. Short says the president's staff is trying to find time for his schedule for a trip to Montana. Trump blames Tester for scuttling the confirmation of his choice to head the Department of Veterans Affairs, Ronnie Jackson. Tester's office released a list of allegations against Jackson that included drunkenness, overprescribing medication, and creating a hostile work environment. That prompted Trump to vow that Tester would pay in this year's elections. Republican Congressman Greg Gianforte spoke yesterday to the Montana County's Forest Summit at the Holiday Inn downtown about forest management reform.
There is a forest management conference going on today between the Forest Service, DNRC, and county commissioners. And we've been working this. We're all sick and tired of breathing our forests instead of managing them. So I'm updating the group on the progress we've been making back in Washington to get common sense forest management reforms in place so we can start managing our forest again instead of breathing them.
Gianforte said a continuing hurdle is the seemingly never-ending legal battles over forest management.
We'd like to get more tort reform, modification of the equal access to justice, also the ability to go to more of an arbitration process, have collaborative processes around NEPA to streamline it. Because the reality is, we don't have a forest management problem. We've got a litigation problem. And frivolous lawsuits from environmental extremists are what tying up our forest management projects. So we need tort reform.
Gianforte will next travel to the Flathead Valley and then on to Great Falls to visit more small businesses. Authorities say a teenage girl was killed in a single vehicle crash in southern Montana. The Bozeman Daily Chronicle reports 16-year-old Lily Auger was driving south on Highway 89 near the town of Wilsall on Monday evening when her truck left the road and crashed into a ravine. She was not wearing a seatbelt and died at the scene. Investigators do not believe that alcohol, drugs, or speed played a role in that crash. And investigators say they'll probably need dental records to identify a body found in South Helena because the remains were so badly decomposed. Lewis and Clark County Coroner Brian Backerberg said Tuesday the condition of the remains suggests they'd been in the area, quote, for quite some time, end quote. The Independent Record reports 2 hikers found the body Friday, and the remains have been sent to the Montana State Crime Lab here in Missoula. Investigators say the death appears to be suspicious. Our News Talk time, 6:12.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Low clouds and patchy fog this morning will give way to a mix of sun and clouds today. High temperatures will be in the upper 50s and low 60s. Tonight will drop back into the upper 30s. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for Missoula's KECI 13 on NBC Montana.